Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Partnerships for Profit. I'm your host, Ana Del Rio, and this week we're joined by Howard Ankin, partner and third-generation attorney at Ankin Law, one of Chicago's leading personal injury and workers' compensation firms. Thank you so much for joining us today, Howard. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't we just jump right in and you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got your start and where you're coming from.
Well, everybody has their story about how they became a lawyer, and mine started at birth. So in my world, my maternal grandfather was a lawyer, and then my mom married my dad, who's a lawyer. So in my mom's world, everybody who's a male in her life was a lawyer, and I'm the firstborn son of a firstborn grandson. So everybody thought I was going to be a lawyer. So I'm doing today, I guess, what I always thought I was going to be doing, which is what I have close to 100 people that are with me here in the center of the loop of Chicago, Illinois. I represent people in all aspects of injury cases, whether that being trucking accidents, auto accidents, fall downs, medical malpractice, products liability. We also do mass tort, Social Security disability, anything that is a contingency fee where people don't have to pay me directly. We get people compensated for, whatever wrongs and injuries were caused to them.
Nice. Okay. So you grew up watching your father and grandfather practice law. What's one lesson from them that still shapes how you run Ankin Law today?
Every single break that I had, whether, Easter break, Christmas break, what have you, I was carrying my dad's briefcase. He used to make me some makeshift briefcases, I remember, that had crayons and that kind of stuff in it. So, the same streets I'm walking down today to get to work are the streets that I was remember trying to walk 2 and 3 steps to keep up with my dad when I was, 4 years old.
I can absolutely picture you walking down the streets of Chicago, just holding onto your makeshift briefcase. That's absolutely, it's like inevitable for you to become a lawyer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got to tell you, I was listening to the radio when I got, the radio goes off in the morning, and I'm listening to somebody, and in the advent of how law works today, I have people that are, nationwide advertising for business, and it's just, I'm just listening to somebody this morning who's like pretending to be me, okay, who I'm not even sure, I've never heard of them. I don't even know if they know where the courthouse is in Chicago. So anyways, I think the consumers need to be careful as to who they're hiring, because one commercial can sound like another commercial, but it's not the same.
Yeah, true. Okay, so many firms chase billboards and big verdicts. How do you build the reputation that keeps families coming back for generations?
I hope my reputation precedes me, but I do have to say, we try every single case that needs to be tried, and we settle the cases that need to be settled. I'm very active in my community. I'm either the president or on the board of every single bar association that matters. I'm very active with my practice. I'm passionate about being a lawyer, and I hope that resonates to people and their family and friends in people's times and needs when they need me. More importantly for me also, there's sometimes I got a telephone call yesterday. My client said, I know this is not a case that you would handle, but I just need some legal advice. And as much as I wanted to do 5 other things, I spent 20 minutes reading over my client's insurance policy and basically, telling her what her rights were. So, I try to really be a lawyer first, more than anything.
That's excellent. Can you recall a story that kind of sticks with you? Because everybody has that one story about, a client or a case that you had where, it turned out pretty dang good. What's that story for you?
Well, like every single story, I guess, is that story for me. There are times where, right before, I open up that courthouse door, I say to myself, I sometimes pause and I take a breath and I say, Howard, I hope is good. I hope you're as good as you think you are, or I hope you're as good as like my client needs me to be right now. And then, like I walk in and I do my thing. So here, like we just got done with the case. It wasn't this past week, but it was 2 weeks ago. That was my most recent case. So what most people don't realize is there's multiple times that a case can be resolved, and good defense lawyers, they play that game. So like this particular case, our final offer in the case was $150,000, and they told us $200,000. That's the absolute limit. We're never paying more. You're going to have to get it from the jury from us. So anyways, that's like the final pretrial. But then from there to actually try a case in Cook County where I practice in Chicago, there's like another week of like pretrial motions, getting ready to, like what evidence is going to go in, what evidence is not going to go in. And that's all argued before the court the week before. And we have the next step where we actually have to pick a jury, and we see what that trier 12 is going to look like before we take that case. Okay. And then ultimately, then we put our case on, and then we get a result. So in our particular case, where it was a 150 offer, 200,000, that was the final. We got $550,000 from my client. Good job of doing some back end negotiation on his case to help him with the total net in his case. So even though you're saying, what's the one that you could remember? I could even remember one from 2 weeks ago because they're all the same way for me. Like, it's just getting people the result that they need.
Okay. So what was going through your mind when you landed your first $1 million verdict just 3 years into your career?
Well,
take you back.
I have to say is at that time, I was a young lawyer. I was about 3 years into my law practice, and I had taken over a very difficult case that like had been handed down over the ages to 2 or 3 other lawyers. I was either the 3rd or the 4th lawyer to even be handling this case. And I took the case, and I decided that we needed to have an expert on the file. And so I talked to my then boss at the time, and I had a fly out. I had a fly out on this case to go see an expert that was in Denver, Colorado, to work on this case. And then it was like basically I was there about 2 or 3 days working with this expert, and then he was doing his pretrial deposition and so on and so forth. And basically then we came back, and now the case is going through the same process that I'm telling you about, where it's getting ready for trial. And then ultimately the policy limits on that case was $1 million. And I still remember to this day, like the defense lawyer, knew as a young lawyer, and he knew I was working hard. And he wrote me like a personal note, which I still have today, which he says like, congratulations on your first $1 million case. And it was like handwritten from him, and the check, the check for the $1 million was like, was when he handed me the envelope. And I didn't know that they were settling. I thought we were really going to trial. And so the defense lawyer, I guess, knew what he was doing. And he was also very nice about congratulating me, knowing that it was my first case.
So he recognized how green you were behind the ears, and kind of, I'm sure, empathize with you, being that everybody's been there once at a time.
Yeah, I was a little bit of like a bull in a china shop. Okay. I was very aggressive in wanting to get on with my career. Then again, maybe some people may still describe me as that today, but because I'm still trying to get to where I want to go in my career. Haven't quite lost the passion yet.
There you go. And I hope you don't.
Yeah.
So for that case that where your first case, you said that you landed that first $1 million. Could you give us any kind of like details about the case? Like what was so significant about it to where it was $1 million verdict?
Well, let me tell you about so that was like the first case that ever got $1 million, but that was with like somebody else's law. That was like as an associate in somebody else's law firm.
Okay.
So I'll give you a different story. My first 7-figure case for me, I started my own law practice, and actually we represented this grandchild's grandmother in traffic court. So I was young lawyer, and wherever we could get the business from, that's what I was doing. Wasn't shy. Anybody that if they had a phone, they had a lawyer. So anyways, we had this case for this 10-year-old boy that was in a carpool, and it was a hot summer day, and they had like 3-4 kids that were in the back seat of a carpool with the windows down that were being driven, from point A to point B. And so there was a ambulance that was coming another way. No lights and sirens. There was no reason for the ambulance to be speeding. There was nobody in the ambulance. They weren't going anywhere to get anywhere. And anyways, this ambulance ends up hitting this car, and then this car ricochets and it hits like another car, and then that car ends up hitting another pedestrian that was on the sidewalk. So this is a big violent crash. My client ends up getting thrown. The 10-year-old who is unbelted, he gets thrown from the car out the window, and that's how the case started. So with that, seemingly after my client went to the emergency room and so on and so forth, he really didn't have any physical injuries, and you couldn't tell that there was anything that was really wrong with him. Okay. But the use of experts was always something that I was keen to, even early on in my career. So I sent him to a very well-noted physiatrist at a local hospital here in Chicago that focuses on the care and treatment of children. Okay. And anyways, when she did a whole battery of tests that I could not even afford at the time to get from my client, he went to a bunch of other specialists and then back to the specialist that pulled together the diagnosis. The long story short is she told me that my client had growth into deficit. I'm like, growth into deficit? What is this?
What is that?
She said that my client is 10 years old at the time of accident, but the head injury that he sustained at the time of his accident will always keep him at the age of 10 years old. And as he grows older, everybody else will keep growing, okay? But he will always remain being 10 years old. He will grow into his deficits. Terrible injury. So anyways, we show up. At the time, I have my dad, and I tell him, it's going to be like a 3-4 week trial, and I'm going to need help having to get the evidence in, and I'm preparing my dad to help me prepare for this. My dad, even at the time, went out. He bought another new suit. He thought he needed an extra suit. The trial was going to be going so long. And,
wow.
Yeah. So, long story short is we go to the final pretrial, and there's no offer. Okay. And I had an economist, and I'm like, well, my economist says that my client's going to need $3.5 million on the lower end bound, $5.5 million on the upper end bound, in order to take care of himself for the rest of his life and have what he needs. And the judge shuts me up right then and there. Mr. Ankin, but he doesn't need $3 to $5 million today. Meaning that he was going to need that over the course of his life. So $1 today is more than $2 tomorrow. So I was overestimating what my demand was because it could be worth less. Okay. And then he's going around to one or some of these other plaintiffs, and he doesn't want anything to talk to them about because really my case was the bellwether, the leader. Okay. And then he turns to the defense lawyer, and the defense lawyer is going on, and it's this and it's that, and we got this liability defense, and we don't think it's this. And the judge is like, Mr. Ankin's chomping at the bit. He wants to pick the jury. He's like, are you settling the case or you're not? And in that moment, I owed like $50,000 that I had in costs on the case. Mm-hmm. And I had more costs if this case went for the 3 or 4 weeks of trial. And I was either going to have my dad reimburse all these people, and then I was going to have to go start working for somebody and start all over again.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, as I told you, I'm hope as good as I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing you know, I'm sitting in the seat. I'm about to get up to go out to walk the jury. And the defense lawyer says, we'll pay the policy limits $3 million, but the lawyers have to divide up all the money. And right then and there, I went from like being like a just starting out lawyer to a lawyer that like had his big case and moved on from there. And then the story goes on and on. People I have lawyer friends that still talk about it today. But like the lawyer that was the other lawyers, they all had like small, like $5,000 and $10,000 cases. But there's another lawyer that had like a case that was worth like $250,000 to $500,000, and we had to divide up the policy limits. And I talked to him in the judge's chambers. I talked to him out in the courtroom. I talked to him out in the hallway. I was accosting him in the elevator. I got him down in the basement. He's like, I'll call you. We'll talk about this next week. We'll work on it. I followed him out to the street corner. I was out in front of the lawyer's building. He's like, you're not going to let me leave until you resolve this case. I'm like, no. So it's my client of the $3 million got $2.65 million. We divided the rest of the money up with everybody else. And I represented that client for, I don't know, a long, he had the money went into a bank to oversee the money and to make sure that it was make sure that everything was paid properly for him, properly and so forth. And for years, even when the case was over, I was like dealing with the bank and orchestrating the financing and coordinating with the banker and so on and so forth. And that's really where that whole ideal of like, even though the case is over, my representation and my relationship with the client never ends.
That is so. They would have never found out that was going on had you not have requested to have those tests done for this child.
No, it was like I needed to I had to fully work up the closed head injury, and we had like multiple different experts that did all kinds of testing and so on and so forth in order to get to this opinion. And it was more good. I had a lot of discovery on who the driver of this car was, and that he wasn't really he wasn't vetted well by the ambulance company. He had a lot of different bad acts in his background, so on and so forth. Probably today, if I had the same case, I would have been like very insistent that they just paid this thing up front. Right. But maybe since I was newer, younger lawyer in my career, they tested me to make sure that I was going to dot all my I's and cross all my T's to get to where we needed to go. So anyways, that's how it went. And now that you got my mind going on this whole thing,
go ahead.
It was actually an associate at one of the law firms that was at the firm that defended the case, thought I did such a good job on it that another very significant injury that I had was referred to me by that lawyer for a case that he got, and that was actually how I got another very good case of mine was through the second share lawyer that had defended this ambulance company. Thought I did such a good job with it that he referred me somebody that he knew, which was the second case that I had. So it was
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So anyways, I don't know how I got started. That's my long story, but it seems like yesterday. And
no, that's the story I was looking for.
Yeah, and I have to say is like, so you can tell not every single case is a 7-figure case. I just told you about a 550 one from 2 weeks ago, and I'm still learning and still trying to do my best for people.
It's excellent that you just said that. I'm still learning that, that you're not stuck in what is the ego, you know what I'm saying? That I find most common amongst lawyers let's just be blunt. And for you to be so humble and say that you're still learning and, adapting, that's very commendable. Like I absolutely love that mentality. So if you could change or could rewrite one rule in the legal industry to make it fairer for everyday people, what would it be and why?
Well, something that I'm very passionate about is the fact that the policy limits that they have in insurance policies are not good enough to properly compensate people. So when I got out of law school, they said somebody that was driving an automobile was fully insured. Like insurance agents said, yeah, if you buy this policy, you're fully insured.
Fully insured, right?
And fully insured, when I got out of law school, and we're talking about like 35 years ago, okay? Fully insured 35 years ago was $100,000 insurance policy, okay? And the substandard policy, I think it's gone from $20,000 to $25,000 during those years. But like minimum insurance, $25,000 for somebody, $100,000 that somebody may be carrying if they have what's called underinsured motorist. So like you can insure yourself against somebody else that doesn't have enough insurance.
Yep.
The problem is these days is if they're selling somebody fully insured, even if you're carrying $100,000, it's really wholly inadequate to compensate people. And people that are driving big rig trucks, the minimum on that is $750,000, and a lot of trucking policies could be $1 million. And people that are bit by dogs, like if a homeowner has a policy, well, if their dog bites or runs out into the street and causes an accident, it's insured. But a lot of the type of dogs that cause problems to people, at least to my clients, are people that are renters, and the renters don't have renters insurance, and there is no such thing as an uninsured dog bite case.
Right.
So that's a problem. So anyways, like if you can change the law to make it better for everybody, in the law, liability, damages, and ability to pay. And most people are focused on liability and damages. Real issue in a lot of these cases is what's the ability to pay. And, most people, like they work hard all week, they pay their bills, they may have a couple dollars left over for entertainment, but like, let's just say they had a couple bucks in the bank, they're going to burn all that up on, an around the world vacation before they're going to end up giving it to somebody else to pay off a judgment. So unless there's insurance, it's very, very difficult to get people full and fair compensation.
Oh, understandable. No, it's understandable. Thank you so much, Howard, for such a great interview. Can you do us a favor again and tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm Howard Ankin, and the world headquarters of Ankin Law is at 10 North Dearborn. Basically, anybody could reach me if they need help at 312-6-million. That's 312-600-0000. As we say here at Ankin Law, injury law made personal. That's Ankin Law.
I love it. There you have it, guys. Thanks again, Howard, so much for being on the show. And I hope everybody enjoyed and learned some great information. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.
Excellent.